Live again then, guys, for another episode of Empower Online, and this one I am super excited to be chatting to Professor David Onuma, straight off the back of the World Masters champion now, straight from Las Vegas. So, David, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I'm pretty good.
Thank you for coming on. I know you've done podcasts before with people like Daniel Strauss and the Raspberry Ape and things like that. So we won't get too much into your background because people can go and listen to that one because it's really, really good.
Yeah.
But talk me through the World Masters then. That's obviously the big thing that you've come back from. When was it? A couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, that was the week of the 31st of August.
Yep.
So I flew out to Vegas on the 26th, 27th. I think it was the Tuesday. Yeah, I flew out on the Tuesday, arrived the Tuesday. They were 8 hours behind to deal with the jet lag. And then I fought on the Friday, which was good. So I did have there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to try and acclimatize.
Cool.
And then I fought on Friday. And then I had Saturday, Sunday, and most of Monday off. And then I flew back on Monday and came back to the UK on the Tuesday. So it was a week trip, basically.
Getting back as the champion. What was the experience like competing in Las Vegas? Obviously the Masters, the Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually competed there before. So I hadn't been to America at all, but to compete since 2016. So the last time I went was in 2016, and I went there and I did the No-Gi World Championships. I took a silver in my division then and a bronze in the absolute.
Yeah.
And then I had competed 2015, 2014, and 2013 in the gi.
Yeah.
13, I took a bronze. They were all tough. Everyone's tough, right?
Sure.
14 and 15, I went out in the first round of both matches, both fights. And then 16, I did no-gi. So I haven't been back for, 9-10 years.
Yeah.
So, and, I've competed a lot on big stages, so I don't really get fazed by, big events anymore. I'm not saying there isn't any stress or nerves, but I don't get fazed by them. When fighting at the Europeans in Lisbon, there are thousands of people there. So, and they're not all looking at me. Nobody cares. I mean, there are thousands of people there, but they're not looking at me. They're just looking at whatever. So you just learn to tune it out and get on with it. Yeah. But this World Masters, it was a special one because it was 100 years of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, as I understand it. That's what they're saying. It was also combined with IBJJF's Jiu Jitsu Con. So it was probably the biggest Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competition ever, probably. They had 50, if not 54, but they had 50 full fighting areas, so 50 fighting areas.
Whoa, yeah.
Because they combined something they call the Jiu Jitsu Con, which is a separate competition that ran alongside the World Masters. And from what I remember about the information that was given out about the competition, there were 12,000 competitors across the two competitions.
Over how many days?
12,000 competitors over 4 or 5 days, 50 mats. And then if you try to envisage what that meant in terms of people there, well, everybody would have come with at least one person, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that doubles it to 24,000 people there. And then, of course, there were the staff, working for the IBJJF. There were other visitors. There were the stalls. It was absolutely massive. So it was about as big a competition, I think, as they've ever had for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
That's
But
crazy.
but like I said, you can't get too phased by it because 12,000 people are not looking at you when you fight. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Run me through your matches then. How many did you have? Was it 4 or 5?
I had 4.
Okay.
So there were, which is, it's a fair amount, really. I mean, there were 16 in my division, which is quite a lot for my age and weight and stuff. So there were 16 in my division, 8 on one side of the bracket, 8 on the other side of the bracket. And what the IBJJF does is you're seeded. So there were sort of 2 types of seeding. There's the seeding, your ranking, generally in the IBJJF, which is determined by how often you've competed in the year before or their period and how many points you've got, right? And then that seeding is applied, that ranking is applied as a seeding in the competition in terms of who turns up.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think in this competition, I was seeded as number 3. Of the world champion was seeded as number 1. So the way it turned out, he was on the other side of the bracket and I was on the
Where
other
was
side
he?
of the bracket.
Where was he from?
He's an American. He's
Okay.
an American by the name of Richard Trammell. Nice guy, very nice guy.
Yeah.
Very skilled. He's won. He's the current he was the world champion, and he also won the European Championships last year as well. And he's competed maybe 14, 15 times this year, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
And won most of them. He did lose a couple of fights, but he's very good, and his game wants to learn, wants to improve.
Yeah.
So he was the number 1 ranked guy. Anyway, so being one of the higher ranks, they put me against a lower ranked person. But when I talk about ranks, I mean, look, you can't get too stuck in what the rankings mean, because any person who appears in front of you is capable of beating you.
Yeah.
If you start thinking I'm a higher rank, that's how you're going to lose straight away. So you can't be thinking I'm a higher rank. This is great. But I mean, it does have some significance, but it's not everything, right?
Sure.
So, anyways, I fought a first guy. I don't remember his name, to be honest. And it was a good fight. I mean, for me anyway, I managed to take him down fairly quickly past his guard, and then just had a good positional dominance on him. Yeah. I tried to submit him at one point, but it didn't work. But I beat him 18-0, so that was a good first match.
Sure.
Then the second match I fought was against a Korean guy. Never fought him before. Saw a little bit of his footage. He was also the Asian Open champion, so he was pretty good. I could see from that. But he hadn't won worlds, he hadn't done Europeans, he hadn't won. No, I think he was ranked number 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or 14, something like that. Sure. But as I said, you can't take anything away. So I hooked up with him and I pulled butterfly guard, trying to off balance him, and he was actually surprised me. He was very strong, and he managed to put me in a flattened half guard position within, sort of seconds of being on top. So he was in the dominant position, flattened half guard. He had the underhook on me. I was on my back. And so I tried to sweep him. That didn't work out straight away. And then we reset the position, but I got a hook in. So I attempted to sweep him again. This time it worked. Put him on his back, was in side control, managed to keep him there. And then I went to knee on belly, hit another 2 points.
Yeah.
So I was ahead by 4 points. He managed to get out and then recovered his guard. Tried to put a triangle on me, but I was too based up. And then, time ran out. So so I managed to beat him 4-0.
Yeah.
And then I went into the semi-final against another guy I'd never fought before, which is good. I think he might have been Mexican, but American. I'm not sure. And I managed to take him down with a single leg and passed his guard. So I was 5-0 up pretty early.
Yeah.
And I had him in side control. My side control was pretty good. I mean, people don't usually kind of get out and stuff. But he did something pretty unusual. Actually, something I've done before, but he grabbed my head and I just thought, yeah. And then he rolled like a gator roll. And so he managed to get me off him and put me on my back, and he was on top. And then he didn't get any points for that because it's a reversal. But now he was threatening to pass my guard. I've got to confess, around this time in this match, I was pretty tired. I started to get tired from the second match. A, because the guy was very strong, and B, the jet lag was kind of kicking in as well. So this guy, I was really annoyed isn't the word. You can't really lose too much sleep over it. But he managed to pass my guard, right? Which is not an easy thing to do, but everything is possible. So he managed to pass my guard, so he's 5-3 up. I'm 5-3 up. So I tried to put him in a triangle from side control because of where his hand was. He backed away, which allowed me to recover my guard, so I was in front of him. And then I had him in an X choke, which he started to defend, and I pushed him backwards. He fell on his back, and that's a sweep because I was on top now. And then I passed his guard again, so that gave me another 5 points, so I was 10-3 up. Side control on him. And then he done the same bloody thing he did on me last time, grabbed my head, and done this bloody same reversal on me again. I'm on my back again. But this time, as he was putting me, I switched around, so I'm kind of back in a butterfly guard position, and then he was trying to pass, but he couldn't pass, and then fight was over. So that was 10-3.
Into the finals.
Into the finals now, and
what were you thinking at this point? Were you kind of confident? Were you feeling it going into the finals? Were you like, yeah, I've had a good day, or were you starting to, as you say, feel a bit the jet lag, the tiredness is creeping in? And
no, I managed to get some wind back, to be honest, for the final, right? Okay. So, and when I say this, people talk about mental mindset and stuff like that, and it's a big thing. But the mental mindset works in different ways, right? It's not just one thing. I had already set my goals for the year about what I was going to do, and winning this was one of them. Of course, that the best laid plans may not always come to fruition. Mm-hmm. But if you don't believe you can win, then nobody else is going to believe you can win either, right? So I believed I was going to win. That was the reason why I went.
Yeah.
My whole plan was to win this. So obviously when I got to the final, I was, in my mind, this is where I'm meant to be anyway, because I have to beat everybody to win, and I had to beat him to win. So it was only right that I was there, because that was the plan. Now, again, see this guy, Richard, he got to the final, he proved his worth, he won his 3 fights on the other side, right? Now, I fought him earlier on this year for the first time, and I fought him. He was my first fight in the European Championships in January.
Okay.
That was a funny one, and the reason why it was a funny one is because he was the number 1 seed. He was the current European champion. He was the European champion from 2024, January.
Yeah.
And he was the world champion from August 2024 too. So he was the number 1 ranked guy in the seed and everything. So because of the seeding, I was out of the 8 that turned up, I was the lowest ranked.
Sure.
So they put the highest ranked against the lowest ranked, which was me, right? So we fought, and I beat him 2-0. Okay. I dominated the fight, but I beat him 2-0, so he was out. Now, the funny thing, and this is kind of like a lesson perhaps to be learned, I try and this stage in the game, I try and research everybody, right? Because I think anybody who doesn't research people and say, I'm just going to turn up and play my game, I'm sorry, but that's not very smart.
Sure.
What do you think every professional team of any sport is doing? They're researching the other side. Crikey, how much footage is there of Mike Tyson back in the day, sitting down, studying, researching his opponents to see what they did. So when I hear people who say, "Oh, I never researched," I don't want to say anything too nasty about you, but it's not very smart, right? Now, I spoke to Richard after the fight. We had a good chat, and like I say, he's a very nice guy, very respectful, and we had a chat. And he told me later that after the fight, he told me that when we fought in the Europeans, he didn't know who I was, right? And look, I don't mean everybody should know who I am, but you need to research. Now, the thing is, the last competition I had in the gi was in March of, I think it was 23, March of 23, and that was an AJP competition, AJP, Abu Dhabi Pro Circuit. And I was in Crystal Palace, and I fought slightly above my weight and with younger people. But anyway, I got to the final. I lost in the final to a really good guy, Setuka Silva, right?
Yeah.
3 fights there. And then the fight, the last fight before that was the European International Masters in 2019, which I won. And the one before that was the European Championships in 2018, which I won. The point I'm making is that my last gi IBJJF competition was in 2018.
Yeah.
So I don't have any ranking points. People haven't seen me. I was focusing more on no gi. I wanted to develop my game a little bit. And COVID, right?
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. But there is plenty of stuff out on me on the internet. So if he'd have wanted to, he still could have found something, even though it wouldn't have been current.
Yeah.
But he did tell me that he didn't look at anything. So he had no idea what to expect. So really, I was probably the worst matchup that he could ever have because I'm as experienced as him.
Yeah.
But he didn't know what to expect. And anyway, so that was our initial meeting, and I beat him. So after that, he did do some research on me. Yeah. Because he told me. And and then we met in the final. And I think he was expecting me to do certain things from him watching some of my fights, plus the last fight with him. But I didn't do what he was expecting me to do.
Okay. Was that a deliberate, conscious act, or was it just how it played out?
Yeah, it was deliberate.
Okay.
Because I'll just tell you about the fight. But it was a deliberate, conscious act. But he tried to pull guard on me twice, and I countered his guard pull. After I was trying to take him down, nearly got him, but it didn't work. I countered his guard pull. First time we went out of bounds, so they reset us. Didn't even get an advantage, but there you go. Then he tried again, and I got good double unders, stacked him, passed him, so I'm ahead, 3-0. And then there was a quick flurry of movement where I was ahead. I was definitely going to win because the time. And then he tried to escape from side control, got back in front of me. We half stood up, and then he tried to pull again. And as he did, I tapped his knee, went straight past him, side control. The referee gave me another 3 points. Yeah. And then the fight finished. So I beat him 6-0.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what happened technically. Those are the results of the fight. So, but yeah, it was good. It was obviously it was good because I won. But no, it was good because good, tough people. No, there was nobody easy there. I fought the champion in the final. It was a little bit of a, not quite like a movie when you fought the guy before, but it was quite, it had the attributes of something interesting, and to meet the champion in the final, obviously beat him means it's vilified, so. Yeah. But yeah, that's what happened there.
Perfect. Congratulations again. What was your training like in the run-up to it? Did you change things? Did you kind of adapt what you were doing? Did you have a game plan going in? Or was it just kind of like, I'm just going to go in and do what I usually do?
No, Mike, you see, look, and I don't mind saying this openly. The thing about it is this. I tell people that, okay, look, a lot of people, depending on how or when they know of me, think I'm just a jiu-jitsu guy. When I say just, they think I just do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, right? Yeah. But a lot of people think that only because I competed more in that than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And jiu-jitsu was going through the roof. As you know, everybody loves it. So I guess I'm more known for my jiu-jitsu, right? But I mean, obviously, you know, because you're a student of our teacher, Guro Bob Breen.
Yeah.
And we train in, Bruce Lee's concepts of Jeet Kune Do, mixing the arts, learning all the ranges, and obviously the Filipino martial arts.
Yeah.
And to my mind, there's nobody. I mean, of course, there is somebody always better, but to my mind, there's nobody better than Guro Bob at blending and mixing and understanding the arts.
Yeah.
So, as a result of this and training with Guro Bob for a very long time, my martial arts is different. Even in jiu-jitsu, they see jiu-jitsu because I'm wearing a gi or no gi. But all the concepts behind it are drawn from all the other martial arts that I know. So therefore I do things differently.
Sure.
Right? So of course I'm beatable, everybody is. But I am hard to prepare for because I'm pretty interactive, if that makes sense. I don't do the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
And what I do may change depending on what you do.
Yeah.
Right? So my training, sort of to answer your question, is I train to be good in all areas. So therefore it takes me longer, but I train those things. I train the weaknesses, right? And so I do train my stand-up and takedown. I do train guard passing. I do train guard pulling. I do train half guard. I train all the positions, top and bottom. There are some I favor more than the others, but I train them all.
Yeah.
So that when I'm in those positions, because I know what to do, right? So it is hard to prepare for me. So in this fight, it was a mixture of some guard pull, some guard passing, some takedown, some sweeps from the bottom, some submission attacks from the top. It's going to be hard for you to look at those fights and say, oh, this is what he always does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But that's because that's how I train that way,
Yeah.
right? Whereas some guys are really good in one position and they specialize only in that position. But if you know how to deal with that position, their superpower is gone.
Sure.
And then they can be beaten.
Yeah.
And I fought many of those guys before, and some of those guys were so good at their position at that time, they were able to get me, if I use that expression.
Yeah, yeah.
But then when I learned, and they were the people that helped me then go back to the gym and work on those things so that they couldn't get me in that anymore. So that competition helping to raise, areas of weaknesses.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So, I hope that answers the question. I just focused on all the different areas. Obviously, you train a little bit more, and, your cardio's in shape, you lift weights if you have to or whatever, and your diet's good because you're going for something. Because I don't train at the same intensity all the time. I don't focus.
You could you? Couldn't sustain.
No, and I don't focus on the same things all the time. How I roll when I'm not training for a comp is different to how I roll when I am training for a comp.
Sure.
Because when I'm not training for a comp, man, you can pass my guard, you can take me down. Sometimes, occasionally a student might catch me in a submission. I tap, no problem. I don't care, But when I'm getting ready for a competition, then the mindset changes, and then I'm working on certain things, and then I have a mindset where I'll give them nothing at all. You get nothing. But I don't roll the same way all the time.
Perfect. You just mentioned there, Guro Bob, obviously our teacher in common. That's how we first met when we were assisting him in Paris a couple of years ago now. It's flown by, but yeah, that was cool. That was a good little trip. How did you first meet Guro Bob then, and why? Because obviously that was an introduction to Filipino, introduction to JKD.
I joined his academy in April of 1996. And at that stage, I had a good background in kickboxing.
Yeah.
I had a long period of training and teaching in Wing Chun.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew it all. And when I say I thought I knew it all, I don't really mean I knew it all, but I just thought that I knew enough Wing Chun. I thought I knew enough kickboxing. There wasn't anything else I can really learn. I mean, it was nonsense. But I thought, that's what I sort of thought at the time. I wasn't interested in judo or karate, but I'd heard about this stick fighting stuff and was just like, yeah, I want to learn that. So the main reason why I went there was to learn weaponry.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in the beginning in the Jeet Kune Do side of things, Jun Fan, because I was a little bit brainwashed at the time, and I thought that Jun Fan, Jeet Kune Do, that kind of stuff was like a poor man's Wing Chun.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I came from the source of Wing Chun, so therefore, what do I need that for?
Yeah.
So I went to his academy for a specific reason, which was mainly to go and train the weaponry, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, when I joined the school, I then joined the classes and then began to learn the other stuff. And then my eyes began to open and I began to see, wow, there's so much more. Because to me, everything was compartmentalized at the time. I used to have this joke where I would say, if I sparred or fought someone, I'd use kickboxing. But if they were really good, I would switch to Wing Chun. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's that mentality. I would switch to this style, which was pick it out of my pocket, you know?
Yeah.
I had no real concept of blending anything at that time. No, not at all. So joining his academy was gave me far more than I could have even envisaged. It gave me that. So yeah, that was 1996.
And then still a student of his now.
Yeah.
And as you say, you're kind of blending everything together. That was one of the questions, actually, I put out on social media and said, you know, has anyone got a question for David while we're speaking? And Terry Vallow, who I think we both know well. Yeah. He said how much of the Kali influence has kind of gone into your Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and yeah, how's that kind of adapted for you?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I think, if I'm honest, I think the biggest external influence on my jiu-jitsu style-wise has been Filipino Kali.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there are some things that aren't sort of really talked about in the martial arts or understood in the martial arts. So a lot of people practice the techniques, which are important, and they practice the drills, which are important, and then they lose sight of the reason why we do these things, and then they become lost in
the drill,
right? And then what they do is they create a drill out of the drill that already existed.
Okay.
And this is very common, and they end up being masters of the drill and have no real clue about what's really going on.
No application, okay?
Yeah, no application at all. So one of the most important things I learned from training with Guro Bob, the most important thing is how to become practical and how to blend the practical stuff. I consider myself to be extremely fortunate because when I joined Guro Bob's Academy in 1996, there were other notable martial artists, you know, who were senior to me and training there with him. But why I consider myself super lucky is because at that point in my life when I joined, I think I was 29. No, hold on. Yeah, I was about 29. Mm-hmm. And I was, you know, single man, and I had a good job working as a lawyer. And he was doing a lot of seminars and traveling at that time.
Yeah.
And I worked out pretty quick from training in the classes that if I was going to get better, I needed some extra lessons, you know. And I didn't meet a lot of him in the beginning because he was coming to classes, you know, when I was there and when I wasn't there. And Guro Bob would be the first to admit, in the beginning, his style's a bit chaotic. It takes a while for you to work out. What you learned on Monday wasn't what you learned on Wednesday or Friday. It was kind of like, you can't, and when you didn't know anything that was going on, it was kind of hard to kind of catch up, especially me being a sort of a fairly structured person.
Yeah.
But I asked Guro Bob, he was going to teach seminars, if I could tag along with him. And he was super cool. I mean, he didn't have to. He said yes. So, I paid my own way and I just traveled with him to seminars and lots of seminars. So the benefit of that was I got to see him in full swing over longer periods of time. I was the training partner for the workshop, so I'd feel his hands all the time. Getting beaten up a lot and my foot stepped on. And that was, it's difficult to say what a weekend training with him equates to in hours and practical experience. But I mean, that's like 2, 3, 4 months training, just like spending all that time with him. And then I began to understand much more of what he was really about, right?
A very quick message now, guys, from our brand new sponsors, Nest Management. Let's be honest, most of us got into martial arts to teach, not to wrestle with the spreadsheets. If you love helping students but you hate the admin, that's where Nest Management step in. They handle the boring stuff like payments, bookings, and all those little jobs that usually end with you wanting to go 3 rounds with your laptop. You focus on the teaching, they manage, they market, and they take some of the stress away. Simple. Check them out at nestmanagement.co.uk.
In 1999, I think it was, Guro Bob put me on to the instructor program. So I was then able to make trips to the States by myself. And then over the next few years, I started to create, or rather notarize the syllabuses of what was being taught. Because I didn't know what was what, right? So I had to find out. And when I enjoyed the instructor program, we were given back then manuals on Kali and manuals on Jeet Kune Do, right? And then you realized, okay, this art is separate to that, but they had links because of the similarity of how you did the technique. Like, in Wing Chun, a slapping block, it's called a Pak Sao. In Jeet Kune Do, it's called the same because it came from Wing Chun. In Kali, it's called tapi, right? And so you have a Pak Sao, and then you have a pulling. Anytime you pull their hand in, Jeet Kune Do, Wing Chun, they call that Lap Sao, or some people call it Lop Sao, but Lap Sao. And then in Kali, that's called Bere Hun, to pull, right? Every time you pull is Bere Hun. But what was happening is everything was called the same. So whatever you did, Jeet Kune Do, whatever you did that, it was called Lap Sao Pak, Lap Sao. Whereas it wasn't. Sometimes it was Bere Hun, and sometimes it was, because depending on which context you used it, right? And in some ways, you might say it didn't really matter, but I wanted to know the difference, because even though some stuff came from Wing Chun, they didn't use weapons until later on, and they certainly didn't use weapons the way the Kali people would do. So their approach would be different, right? And I believe if you're teaching the arts, then you need to be able to differentiate between what is what. So in Kali, they do this, and Jeet Kune Do, they do this, and why, right? Anyway, so I spent a few years trying to actually know what the difference between the arts were and the systems, so that I could teach one or the other, or if you wanted to, because I wasn't trying to create a new style, crikey. There was enough systems out there and material, but I wanted to know what it was I was learning, and also what it was I was teaching, if that makes sense. So I went pretty deep into that. And along that journey, I then discovered the influence of Silat on the Kali. And so I have, not many people really know this actually, but I need to go back in my notes to check the year. But a long time ago, maybe 2002, 2003, something like that, but I have the notes. I was allowed to interview Guru Dan in the center.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I have an interview with Guru Dan in the center. We didn't record it. It's written. I wrote, and we took pictures of the interview. And he told me about how his system of Silat was created. The 5, I think it's 5 or 6 that got together, created the system, which is called Mafilindo Silat, which I think you know Mafilindo because the Ma is from Malaysia, the Phil is the Philippines, and the Indo is from the Indonesia.
Yeah.
So it was that fusion of Silat. So it's called Mafilindo Silat. And ultimately, at the end, he was the one left holding the mantle of that Silat. All the others kind of like disappeared, if I use that expression. So that was really interesting because then I could see that this was more Kali, some of the stuff, and this was more the Silat stuff, right? But obviously Guro Dan was such a master at even fusing that. So his approach of Jeet Kune Do that he learned from Bruce Lee, Sigung Bruce Lee, he applied also to the Kali. So the Kali that he teaches is still a fusion, right? But even having said that, even if you I would say this, you can learn a lot of the Kali stuff, which has a lot of Silat in it, but that's standing.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't have the floor stuff.
Yeah.
Because Guro Dan's system also of Silat can change the floor work.
Yeah.
But most people don't know that
Mm-hmm.
because they're not taught it. It's usually the stand-up stuff. So you take down to the floor, but not the stuff on the floor. So I discovered that. I say I discovered that because when I went and I used to go and train in his academy, he would be teaching classes and a lot of it would be on the floor. And it's like, wow, okay, so you do all the kuching, all the positions, how to take down and stuff, cap position. And it's like, it's very physical, right? Up, down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
So like I said, most people don't learn that because if you only learn from Guro Dan on seminars, which a lot of people have done, understandably, depending on where he's teaching and depending on his age, right?
Yeah.
If they don't have mat, you wouldn't get any of the floor stuff.
Yeah.
And you get the stand-up stuff. So unless you've been taught it,
Yeah.
you won't get it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people who are teaching Mafilindo Silat, they don't necessarily have the floor stuff. And then over here, through Guro Dan, through Guro Bob, we went and retrained with another guy whose name I won't mention, only because he doesn't deserve his name to be mentioned.
Okay.
And we trained with him, and his Silat was very good, but unfortunately, as a person, he kind of let us all down.
Okay.
But we learned from some Silat from him. The Silat was excellent. The floor stuff was very good, and that helped to bolster our knowledge of ground Silat as well. So So Guro Dan's system of Mafilindo Silat is quite complete. It's pretty good. There are some people who are certified in it, and I think most are not.
Yeah.
I think I first became certified in 2004 or something like that.
How would you rate the groundwork system of it? As a BJJ guy now that obviously is, really high up in the rankings of BJJ, what do you think to the groundwork of the Silat stuff?
Well, I actually think it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to understand the use, right?
Yeah.
The groundwork system of Silat, they don't really do submissions.
Yeah.
They do breaks. So in Jiu-Jitsu, we're going to get your arm, we're going to hold you. And if you don't tap, eventually we'll break it, right? But you take it to the extreme point. In Silat, they go, it's a broken thing, right?
Yeah.
You spin someone on the floor and their elbow is trapped against your knee. The idea in Silat is you would go pop and you would break the arm, right? It's not a gentle thing whereby you have the control. And I know you can do that in BJJ. Of course you can, but it's frowned upon, right? We don't do that, right? We're not trying to break people like that, right? So you train in that way to have the control and take them. You're not meant to take someone to a submission where they don't at least have a chance to tap.
Yeah.
Right? But of course, it doesn't mean that as a BJJ guy, you can't be in the street and just break someone's arm.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is in terms of the training method, the Silat guys, they're looking for the break as opposed to the control.
Yeah, they go straight.
Right? Yeah. So here's the interesting thing. The interesting thing is if you train Silat, the groundwork, you would understand the theory of breaking well. But if you didn't grapple it, you wouldn't be that good at it because now you're against a live resisting opponent.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're not drilling anymore.
No, right? And you can't take your partner and break his arm and say, yeah, it works. I know.
Yeah.
Right?
You could just once though.
But only once, yeah.
Yeah.
Once a week. So with the jiu-jitsu guys, they're much better at controlling and taking the submission and blah, blah, blah. And so then they're not easily going to, break someone's arm and stuff like that, right? But what you need to understand is a combination of the both so that you know you can break it if you need to. Because how I would react in a street situation if I got someone's limb is different to a jiu-jitsu competition because it depends what the situation is, right? If you've got a knife or something and I manage to grab your arm, I'm going to break the arm. I'm not going to try and get you to tap because you just tried to stab me, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's a different thing. But also, it does raise an important point. An important point is this. Look, we can't walk around as human beings in combat state, level 10.
100% all the time.
Around like this, ready to kill. You can't walk around. It's not healthy to walk around like that.
The paranoia is real. Yeah.
No. And so you've got to enjoy your martial arts and develop your skills. So therefore, there's going to be some element that it's not real. Even in the jiu-jitsu, there's a sporting element, right, of camaraderie and rules and regulations, right? There has to be. Otherwise, everyone would just hurt each other and you couldn't do it, right? Even in MMA, there's some things you're not allowed to do. Why? Because you don't want to kill, you want to hurt them, you don't want to kill them. You're not allowed to spike people on their head. I think you're not allowed to knee down the opponent. And this is not to say that it's not real life, but there should be some rules so that people shouldn't be maimed to death in a sporting environment, right? So,
so they can fight again.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, and then it's quite interesting because you get some styles who say, oh, yeah, if we did all of that, I'd just put my finger in your eye and that's it. It's true, a finger in the eye will stop an MMA fight, right?
Yeah.
But it's not as easy to put your finger in someone's eye as you think, number one.
No. Yeah.
It's the same way people think, I just kick them in the groin. Have you ever tried to kick someone in the groin? It's not as people think it's easy. It's not as easy as you think. And, when there's adrenaline kicking off and it doesn't hurt quite straight away, and if you put your finger in my eye and you're fighting me, it's going to hurt, but I'm going to keep fighting until the danger is over, right? It's not going to stop just because of a finger in the eye, right? So, so there's a lot of unrealistic expectation of people about certain things. You got to look at what the arena is, go with those rules, which is not the same as a street fight.
Sure.
And understand it. But also understand that a street fight is completely different. For example, maybe we don't need to go there, but most street fights these days involve two major things that Kali is good at. One, weapons.
Multiple.
And two, more than one person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, So, you can be a high-level guy in jiu-jitsu, great champion, world champion, whatever. If you're not used to fighting with or without weapons and you're not used to fighting more than one person, it might, you could be in a bit of trouble if you not have this kind of awareness, right? So it's interesting, but
How important was the self-defense aspect for you when you first started training martial arts? Did you want more of the sport context? Did you want more of the self-protection? Was it anything?
No, there wasn't. Yeah, when I first started, there wasn't much competition all round. I mean, there was people competing, but there wasn't much competition around, if that makes sense, like competitions that were available for people to do it. You often would have competition. And remember, the competitions would be within styles.
Yeah.
So I remember in 1986, when I was training a style called Lao Ga, under one of the best instructors, he's still teaching, Sifu Stan Brown. He was a very high-ranking kickboxing black belt under the British Kung Fu Association, as well as one of their highest-ranked teachers. He was absolutely fantastic, this guy. And I fought in the British Kung Fu Championships, I think it was in 1986, and it was full contact kickboxing, essentially.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was pretty good. I didn't do a lot of it. But what I'm saying is that was good because, again, it was an avenue to try some of your stuff.
Yeah, test it.
As opposed to going to, you know, to fight in the street. So it wasn't that it was important. I wanted to be a kickboxing champion or anything. It was, but the people, they wanted to be good at Kung Fu. And obviously Kung Fu was very important at that time because Bruce Lee was Kung Fu, right? In essence, right?
Yeah.
And then you had all the Kung Fu films, which are named as Prodigal Sons, 1 and 2, Secret Warriors, all these, Snake and the Monkey, all these films which people just loved. We all loved it, man.
Yeah.
We, like the grey beard and, you know, oh man, we loved all of that kind of stuff. And I was heavily influenced by that stuff. But let me tell you why I was heavily influenced. I was heavily influenced by the fact that you could be technically skilled enough to beat anyone. That was the thing about it. Because in those movies, the master was always older.
Yeah.
And even though they had the theme where eventually he might lose and then there would be some revenge by his students.
Retribution, yeah.
Yeah. The point is the master was he would do all, it was like he wasn't necessarily doing, I suppose they did have weight training in their own way. Do you know what I mean? Carrying the boulders and all. But he was just technically skilled.
Superior.
And I always wanted to be technically skilled. That's what I wanted more than, I wasn't thinking, I want to be a big, strong bodybuilder. I want to be technically skilled, highly skilled. That was what I really wanted. That was my influence, to be highly skilled.
Mm-hmm.
And that has served me very well because even now when I fight with people, I fight, well, I'm using the term fight, right?
Yeah.
I train, I spar with people, whether it be boxing, stick fighting, whatever. There are people whose physical attributes have now far surpassed mine. But because I have the technical knowledge,
you got there.
Maybe more than them,
Yeah.
It gives me the edge to maybe beat them or at least stay ahead or keep up,
sure,
depending on who I'm fighting.
Yeah, yeah.
But that isn't from more running on the treadmill, more gym, more weights, more this. No, and that's one of the reasons why, as an example, our teacher, Guro Bob, he's 75, going to be 76. Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, he's not going to go do 10 rounds of sparring with anybody. He's an older guy now, right? But technically, there's still not many people who are, you know, whenever we train together, I'm always still behind. I'm like, I have great sensitivity skills. That's something that I honed. And I have to use those in order to just about, when I say just about, keep up with him, because his sensitivity skills are better than mine. So I'm using mine just to stay
in the game.
You know what I mean? Just to stay in the game, right? You leave out the other thing, actual physical strength and all that. Yeah, you're behind all the time. His knowledge, his blend is just. And I'm not saying this because he's our teacher. I'm just telling you because this is the truth. But a lot of people, you'd have to know, right?
Yeah, you've got to feel it or be there, and yeah,
you got to feel it to really know what's really going on. So, and it's quite good because we have a great relationship. Because, I mean, from a martial arts perspective, because he also, they taught me many things directly and indirectly, but he also showed me that as a teacher you can still learn from other people, and you can also learn from your students, because I learned that from him. It's like, okay, so some stuff I would do he would take on board because of the way I counted things differently. Obviously, most of the time it's me doing the learning. But what I'm saying is he still showed me that's okay. So therefore, now when I'm teaching people, I'm still more open-minded to, pick up something. Yeah, I'll take that and I'll add it in my game, right? Yeah. So he's very, very open-minded, confident in his level of skill and what he does. But he's, his excellence is, even now, I think it's still a bit underrated in terms of people knowing exactly how good he is, but he is. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, obviously, previously you were a lawyer. Do you think that kind of mindset, that what's the word? That way of looking at things has helped your progression in martial arts in terms of
100%. 100%.
Systemizing,
Why?
categorizing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so look, you don't need to be a bookworm. You don't need to be a genius to sit down and write everything, because even if you write everything down, you have all the notes. I know people who've got all the notes, and the equivalent of all the gear and no idea. They got all the notes, everything.
Yeah.
And then you ask them to do it, and it's like, and they can't do any of it. But also, part of your martial arts journey, I believe, is you have to go through the stages of being the student, and then like a coach, like an assistant, and then eventually become a teacher to pass it on. That's part of your journey.
Yeah.
That should be your journey, even though not everybody will teach, but that's part of your journey, right? And so if on your learning journey you didn't learn very well, even though you may be able to fight, when you come to teaching, you won't teach very well either, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sad to say that the quality of teaching of martial arts these days is not very good, because just people are just relying on what they do, right? I do this and therefore I'm going to teach this. But what if you're only good at this? You're only going to teach that. You have to learn more than just the things that you like.
Yeah.
Right? You have to know. And you see, I'll give you an example of what I mean is, so for me as a martial arts instructor, I've taught a lot of seminars around the world, right? And I've taught in Jeet Kune Do Kali, stick fighting, even Silat, as well as Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I've taught all of these things all around the world. And you have to be able to answer questions. Because people ask you, hey, what about blah, blah, blah? And you've got to be able to answer those questions without bullshit. Because the moment you start making up something, then you don't know what the answer is. And so you learn pretty quick when you're out there teaching that someone's going to ask you a question, and do you know what the answer is, right? And in all the years I've been teaching, I haven't always known all the answers. In fact, I'll often say to guys, look, if you ask me a question and I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you that I don't know.
But I'll go and find out the answer.
And I'll tell them. So most of the time I'm asked questions I can answer. Most of the time. And there'll be times like, no, I don't actually know enough about this to tell you what the answer is for that, right? But the point is, in terms of being a lawyer, because I wasn't just a lawyer, and what I mean by that is this: there are different types of lawyers, right? So I was a criminal lawyer who went to court, so I was involved in the adversarial process, meaning I would represent people in court, right? They needed bail. They were on trial. I was the advocate who did the work.
Yeah.
As a result, I needed to know all the facts of the case. I needed to know my side, the defense side, and I needed to know the prosecution side.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't just something, I needed to know the case inside out. And I therefore needed to become articulate in asking questions, answering questions. So the point I'm making is that if you're a contract lawyer, you be a great lawyer, but you don't go to court as a contract lawyer. You don't ask questions. You're not involved in the adversarial procedure, which doesn't make you the right person for conflict, if that makes sense. But you'd be a great contract lawyer. I'm not belittling. I'm just saying the different types of lawyers. So having done that job and being in that, there's a difference basically between you personally being responsible to answer the questions in a meeting, as opposed to being you the one who prepares the information for the person who's going to do it. And I remember I learned this lesson when I was a trainee solicitor. My principal at the time, he told me I had to take a statement from a client about what happened. I took this statement from the client and then I gave it to my principal. And he told me more or less that it was dog shit, right?
Okay.
More or less. And it was dog shit. And the reason why it was dog shit is because at that point, I wasn't an experienced advocate, and therefore I did not know the kind of information that I would need to know if I was doing the trial.
Yeah.
I didn't know which questions to ask to put in his statement.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I just, so you therefore had to ask all the relevant questions about the background. Where did you go to school?
Yeah.
What's your education? What's your health like? You had to go through everything because later on that information might be needed. But I didn't know at that stage what I needed at that stage later on, if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
Right? So being a lawyer did help me to plan better, to learn better, to understand, to structure when teaching, right? And you need that. So in the jiu-jitsu world now, we have John Danaher, who's considered to be one of the finest minds of jiu-jitsu, and he is, right? Very cerebral, very intellectual, and again, like many people, nobody can deny that his methods work, but there are just some people who just like, I can't listen to John Danaher. He's too monotone. He's too boring. I can't listen to it. I get it. I understand it. Then there'll be maybe some other people who'll be like, yeah, I love that. The 1, 2, 3 approach is fantastic, right? But you can't deny his methods of passing it on. Now, I think, so basically being a lawyer definitely helped me in my martial arts journey because I was a martial artist before I was a lawyer.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So as I started martial arts at 12, I qualified as a lawyer at 25, right? But that journey helped me to learn, to structure, to organize, to plan 100%, right? And so, it did.
Perfect. You kind of said there that there's not or the quality of martial arts instruction at the moment isn't so good some places. What do you think makes a good coach, or what do you think makes a good school in general? Like the principles, the mindset, the way of coaching, or the way of transmitting the information.
Look, you know what? I think there are two things, right? There is one, the information, having the information. And then the other thing is the transmission of the information. There are two separate things which are obviously linked, but there are two separate things, right? So what normally happens, because I've seen it, is those who don't have enough information usually end up making stuff up.
Yeah, over teaching as well.
Yeah, and that's usually where they fall apart because the stuff they make up is usually nonsense, right? When they should really just go and actually learn from somebody who knows what they're doing. Yeah. That's what happens, right? So having poor levels of information and knowledge is always going to go against you, right? But having that knowledge, so you could be really skilled, but then not knowing how to structure it and deliver it is the other problem. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell you what I think is one of the biggest problems in martial arts. And this was something that became identified to me by my old Wing Chun instructor. I had a few, but the main influence of my Wing Chun was Daigo Sifu Michael Lewison. He's still teaching, one of the best Wing Chun practitioners I've ever seen. One of the things he said to me, and this is a long time ago, he said to me, David, what people don't understand is I have to teach the student what they're ready to learn at this time. Mm-hmm. And I have to wait until they're ready for me to teach them the next level. Mm-hmm. And it's something that's always stuck with me because that requires deep knowledge, but also deep patience.
Yeah.
Because what most people, that what most people do now is they become impatient when they're teaching the student because they want to rush so much to show them the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to show you this. Okay, I'm going to show you that. And what happens, they get lost in the ego of the teaching. I want to show you how much knowledge I've got by showing you something you're not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. They're not ready yet. They need to spend more time on this. Then you show them the next bit.
Yeah.
But because we're teachers and we think it's almost a crime to show them the same technique 2 lessons in a row, I've got to show you something new.
Yeah.
Right?
True. Yeah.
So the teachers, that's what happens. I'm telling you, that's what happens, right? And I, even with some of my own coaches who are teaching the kids, for example, sometimes, even though we have a structure and syllabus, they start trying to teach them something, they're not ready. And they say, oh, but I think they might be a bit bored. They've been doing that for 3-4 weeks because in their mind, they're thinking they need to show the next thing. But the student's not ready for that yet.
Yeah, yeah.
This 6-year-old is not ready for the whizzer and the takedown or for this or that. You have to wait until do you understand what I'm saying, right?
Sure.
And so that patience, which is one of the most important things you need as a martial artist, is often lost because they want to teach people things they're not ready for because maybe it makes them look good, and or maybe they think it makes them look bad if they're not showing that super flash technique, right? You got to stick, and I don't want to say stick with the basics because that's such a common expression. What does that mean? But Guro Bob and I will often talk about this kind of stuff. And if you take Filipino martial arts, for example, there are guys who can do 3 counts in Brado, 5 counts in Brado, heaven 6 step, but they don't know how to swing the stick properly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Their arm is still out here getting smashed when it's not close. Yeah. They're over this, their arms are wide open. But they know all the patterns, right? They know all the patterns, great, but they can't do it well at all.
Yeah.
Right? And you spar with them and you're going to destroy their hands, right? So you got to find this balance, right, where you are pushing somebody a little bit above the level they're ready for, but you're still making sure that they're having their basic fundamentals, the things that they really need to go along.
Yeah.
But my opinion is most instructors, now I'm not saying my opinion is a lot of instructors don't have the patience to do things at the stage that they need to be done because of the way that the reasons why I've just explained, right? And I've been there too, so I know. I've done that. I've done it. I'm not saying I was always how I am now. I've made those mistakes. I've taught stuff which was nonsense. I've taught stuff which I thought I was ready for and I wasn't. I've taught badly. I've done all those things.
Do you think you have to? Do you have to do that in order to get through the process?
What, teach badly?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Yes and no, but because it depends on, you see, like, the reason why I say yes and no is because if you in modern times now, teaching should be done better, right? But more systematic, bit more organized. So therefore, the quality of the student should be better.
Yeah.
And therefore, when you teach, you should be better than it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. That's what should be happening. But even I'm going to use in Jiu-Jitsu as an example, right? Jiu-Jitsu was one of the most famous martial arts in the world without a uniform curriculum system of instruction. Right? There is no curriculum. Some schools have curriculum. We have a curriculum, but it's by no means a complete one.
Yeah.
Right? And I teach my curriculum slightly different because you can't, for example, if you take a single technique like an armbar, that armbar may appear in an early stage part of a curriculum. But then later on, it will also appear again later because armbar from guard, armbar from side control, armbar from... And so as you get better, you can then do it from more places,
more
right?
Variations, yeah.
Variations and setups and so on and so forth, right? And so it is difficult to have a complete syllabus, but having none never helps you. So what used to happen is you would get guys, they trained with their teacher. The teacher typically at that stage was a great fighter and not necessarily a good teacher. That's what used to happen a lot in jiu-jitsu. And then you got your black belt, and then you taught exactly the same way you were taught. Just do it. Let's go. Let's fight. And just do it. Okay, you're all right. Have this belt.
Yeah.
Go compete. You can fight. Have this belt. So the actual teaching skills were not focused and emphasized on,
Sure.
right? And although it's changed a lot, you can't assume just because a guy's a great fighter that he's going to be a great teacher. We know that that's not the case.
Yeah, it doesn't correlate always.
Doesn't correlate. I mean, you would hope that somebody who has become a great fighter could also be a great coach, because they'll certainly bring things to the game that somebody who wasn't a great fighter can bring, right? But I think, you need to actually study, you actually need to focus on all of those things. So I make it clear that I focus on being a good student, first of all, and a student of learning to fight, a student of learning to teach, and a student of learning to coach. I'm still a student.
Yeah.
Then as a teacher, and then also as a fighter and as a coach. Now, there is a difference between a coach and a teacher. Now, it depends on the art and the context, right? Because it's a generic term. He's my coach.
Yeah.
So in combat sports or anything that involves competition, coach should mean something different, right? Because as a coach, for teaching someone how to compete, you need to know the stresses and strains of the competition.
Sure.
You need to know exactly what they need for competition. You need to know exactly how to coach them. You need to know what the other person can do. And you need to be able to coach them in the minute, flow by flow. Switch to this, do that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a completely different thing altogether. The amount of times I've been to jiu-jitsu competitions and I've heard most of the, sounds really bad, but there's a lot of coaches out there who are just not very good. You see your student on top trying to pass guard, and they'll shout, "Oh, pass the guard, pass the guard, pass the guard." Well, of course he wants to pass the guard. Have you told him anything that anyone else, right? Or someone's mounted on top of you, escape, get him off you, get him off you. What does that mean? Get him off you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I watched a fight once at one of these local competitions. And it was actually, I watched a fight. It was one of my students. It was a female competition. One of my students. I was telling her what to do. What I was telling her to do was different to what her coach was telling his fighter to do. Control the lapel, keep the foot on the hip, keep the thing, don't let her switch back in, control the bottom pant. I was giving specific things to my fighter, what to do. Use your left hand, control the underhook, control the head, don't let him turn back into you. The other guy, who just happened to be Brazilian, so he's not picking up Brazilian, telling his fighter, who was a Brazilian fighter, "Come on, you need to get out. You need to get out. Get out. Come on, you need to get out. You need to." And the fighter turned back and said, "What do you think I'm trying to do?" That's what happened.
Yeah.
He didn't give any constructive
Nothing specific or constructive
advice. He just said, "You need to get out. You need to come on, man. We know you need to get out." Do you know what I mean? And it's like, he may have been a good fighter, he may have been good at teaching techniques, but on that day he was not a good coach.
Crap coach, yeah.
Right? Because he didn't know what to tell his student. And that's the level of the student was so frustrated, just shouting back, "What do you think I'm trying to do? I'm not," you know. But that's always the case. There'll always be levels to this kind of stuff. But I think if people are a bit more honest about their failings, right, and what they don't know, then they'll be better at going to learn. So, you know, as I said, me now at my age and where I am, I'm even more happy to learn. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I feel I'm very confident in what I do. I'm very confident in what I teach and how I teach, because I know and I believe it's a good level. I've been doing this a long time, and my results of the people I teach speak for itself, right? And that's not me being a big head. I'm telling you the truth. This is what happens. My students improve, they learn, they get better, whatever it is that we do, right? But it's come with a lot of hard work and a lot of time. It's taken me, you know, to get there. And I'm still trying to get better at it, right? But if you're not trying, if you're not attempting, if you're not putting in that kind of work, then you're just going to get what you put in, which may not be much.
You're just coasting. Yeah. What's your focus now then? Or how has your focus changed as you've got a little bit older? Obviously, you're in great shape, won the Masters, done that. But, you know, people age. They do. It's an ability, isn't it? But that doesn't mean that you can't stay in great shape. You know, as you say, look at yourself. Yeah. Great example of it. Guro Bob's a great example again of a 76-year-old guy who can still run, like, you know.
Well, health. Look, I'm a martial artist first and foremost, right? And as a martial artist, I try to abide by certain rules, right? So, you know, all this stuff, discipline, respect, loyalty, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. It can either mean something to you or not. I'm a martial artist who happens to enjoy Filipino martial arts, who happens to enjoy jiu-jitsu, which is why if I meet a guy who's a martial artist from another system, I don't say mine is better than yours or whatever I think. You're a martial artist too, and if you embody these things, we're on the same page. That's great, right? So I'm still just trying to be a good martial artist, but on a personal level, you know, I do a lot of rehab, try and keep my body in shape, you know, keep healthy, eat better. I still dabble in whatever, but I try and eat healthy, train hard, keep well. And the main reason for this is because I love martial arts and I love doing it. And if my body's not in shape anymore, I can't do it, the thing that I love, right? So I want to be able to do the thing that I love as long as possible, right? And I don't train. I train smarter.
Yeah.
Definitely, not harder. If I don't feel like rolling today, I'm not rolling.
Yeah.
If I don't feel like kickboxing sparring today, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not a case of, oh, I'm feeling lazy, I'm not going to do it. My body says, don't do it today. I won't do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. Right? I know how to, you know, adjust my body. You know, so because if you burn yourself out and you can't do anything anyway. You need to get some rest. You need to rehab. You know, you have to be smart. And in that way, I mean, you'll always get injuries in martial arts because that's what they are. They're an injury, right? Yeah. But by training smarter, you can help reduce the injuries. You know what I mean? You definitely can. Having, you know, good warm up, work on the stuff that you need to do. When you're young, nobody warms up because the body's like elastic, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't need to.
When you get older, you realize it's all about the warm up, right? You know. So, and training smart. I mean, yesterday, you know, my friend and, you know, long-time kind of semi-training partner, Daniel Strauss, Professor Daniel Strauss, the Rush Rie, you know, he came to my gym. He comes also from time to time. And we did like 3-4 rounds of 5-6 minute rounds of sparring, right?
Yeah.
No, he's great because he outweighs me. He's stronger than me. He's younger, but he doesn't. We have some of the best technical rounds, right? He never really uses that strength on me. Only when I put him in a different situation, then the strength comes out. But I mean, he's very technical and he's very strong. But I could roll 4-5. I rolled 4-5 rounds with him, and I came out and I felt okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because he's not trying to kill me. I know I can roll with him, and we're good.
We're good. Yeah,
but I could maybe roll with a blue belt who's just. I still killed him, but like he might be the way they're rolling, they're trying to use everything. That could be worse than rolling with, you know. So I might even tell them I'm not rolling with you, or I'm going to roll with them in such a way that they're not going to get any benefit because I'm going to shut you down completely.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything. So you can't hurt me because, you know. So you do have to be smart about how you train and who you train with. Some people are to be avoided.
Yeah.
You know, some people are just to be avoided because they don't really want to learn. They just want to see if they can do something on you. And those people, it's kind of like, you know, I'm not going to, most of the time I won't even give them the pleasure of doing that. Yeah. But it all depends on the scenario and the environment, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Of course.
Anybody comes to my gym and they're a good person and they want to roll, we'll roll. I don't avoid anyone. Let's go. But if you come with arsehole written stamped on your forehead, I'm not going to roll you. I'm not going to. There's nothing to be gained at all. We don't have a fun roll. Even when I beat you, I'm supposed to. If I lose, I'm not supposed. I mean, like, what am I going to do that for? I run the risk of injury, and they say sorry if that and go home.
What benefit?
So, you know, some people, you know, just train smart, really.
100%. Yeah, perfect. What's your kind of next goals then? Obviously, you've got the master now. You said that was your 2025 goal. What else are you looking to achieve, like in
That
your
was
own career? And
well, my 2025 is not over yet. So
yeah,
at the end of October, I'm going to Rome for the European No-Gi Championships.
yeah,
So I'm booked for that. And then the last one, I'm back to Vegas in December for the No-Gi World Championships.
perfect.
So these were all the things I set as goals for this year. It's all part of the whole package.
Yeah,
So, by the end of this year, I hope to achieve my goals, which is also something I don't think anyone's ever done before.
mm-hmm.
If I do it, then I'll be, current European and gi and no-gi and world gi and no-gi champion all in the same year.
Yeah, cool.
I'm not sure if it's ever been done before by a masters athlete. I don't know. But anyway, that's not why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. So those are the two competitions I got left for the end of this year anyway.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, good luck for them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss David Onuma. It is a pleasure, as always. Yeah. Thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks. And for those who are listening, if you got this far, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to it. And I hope we managed to, help in some way. But, just keep on doing what you're doing. Longevity is key. Just stick with it. There are lots of great teachers around in the different styles. Seek them out. Train with Guro Bob. See me if you're interested in any stuff. Obviously you yourself doing a good job on your journey as well. So there's plenty of people out there that can help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Good. Thank you. All right. Take care. Cheers, Dave. Thank you.
Take care.